Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to Hidden Horror. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? I hope you are doing well today. Today I'm here. I want to talk more about the Idaho Four case, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch a interview with one of the parents of the Idaho Four victims. It was Kaylee Goncalves. Her dad recently did an interview with the Drunk Turkey Show on YouTube. I had a chance to watch the video. I am going to go over the video with just certain information, not today, but soon. I have a lot of new ideas and things that I'm looking into with the evidence coming out soon. But something that he said when he was talking, Steve Goncalves, he is stating that there was a parallel investigation into Bryan Kohberger, and that part of that investigation, um, it was as if the FBI could have made charges against Bryan Kohberger or the state of Idaho. So as the murders of the four victims was ongoing with the state of Idaho, there was also an ongoing investigation separate into Bryan Kohberger. And he never said what it was regarding, but I believe this is that idea again of the stalking. Now, I have at least two videos. One video specifically talking about if Kaylee had a stalker, right? You can check in my playlist on YouTube. Check that video out because I can't recount all of that information. But the idea generally was really, did Kaylee or any of primarily the girls, not necessarily Ethan Chapman, did any of them have a stalker? Was anybody following them, looking into them, watching their activity, etc.? And it was a known idea, or it was understood that something was going on with Kaylee and she was being helped. People were kind of following her along. We kind of saw that in the Grub Truck video, right? Her parents, they knew that she allegedly had a stalker. She felt someone was following her, watching her. But the police, they came out with whatever investigation they did, and they said they cannot confirm, they cannot validate that information. But Steve Goncalves, he brings it up in his interview with the Drunk Turkey Show, and I think he is going on YouTube and not necessarily the mainstream media because he's allowed to talk. He's allowed to express his ideas. Those ideas are not being cut off. It's not targeted questions necessarily. He's allowed to kind of divulge whatever information he wants to get out there. He definitely has a focus and he's getting what his ideas are out. He's saying what he wants with really a limited amount of time. That video was probably about almost around like an hour and 45 minutes long. So generally, the news or news outlet is not going to give him that much time. So he's on there and he's talking a lot, but I honed in on this and I wanted to go back over this stalking idea. Hopefully, this will be the last time that I zone in on it and have to create content just for it. But this idea that potentially there was stalking happening, occurring, and we've been told that for probably about a year or so that potentially in the news media that Bryan Kohberger stalked the victims, that Bryan Kohberger was at the residence 1122 King Row, and that pretty much he surveilled them for months leading up to the murders. And the murders was basically a combination of obsession for the most part. So when Steve Goncalves comes out with this statement that there's a parallel investigation with the state of Idaho and the FBI, it triggers in my mind again. He's trying to bring up this idea of the stalking again. And as I have said, um, in my opinion, if there was evidence, if they could prove that Bryan Kohberger was stalking the victims, you would see charges. Excuse me. There would be an investigation. There would be um, witnesses, evidence, possibly video. They would go into his cell phone data. They would go into the computers. They would find a connection. They'd be able to pinpoint incidents where there would be stalking. So I just want to flush this out more. I want to lay this idea kind of to rest today by going over the two different stalking laws. So we have the state of Idaho, they have a stalking law, and then we have the federal interstate stalking law. Now it's going to be interstate because it has to cover a federal crime. So when you cross over from one state to another state, either that particular state can pick up the crime or it could be the feds that pick up the crime because you left, for example, Bryan Kohberger left from Washington and entered Idaho. That's how the feds can get involved. And that's what would create a federal investigation. Okay. So I want to tell you the laws, and then I want to go a little bit more into specific case details regarding the Idaho Four and Bryan Kohberger. Okay, so let's go over to the Hidden Horror Facebook page so we can cover the two laws. We can see that there is one clear distinction. Okay. Um, and that is that the state of Idaho, it requires that the victim is aware that that person knows they're being stalked. In the federal law, that's not required. You don't have to know that you're being stalked. So let me share my screen. I'm going to hop on over to the Hidden Horror Facebook page, okay? So again, if you haven't checked out the Hidden Horror Facebook page, please check it out. Please follow the page, like the page. I have a lot of information. I have the links to everything that we go over on the page. I have the information. So if you ever have to go back or anything like that, you'll be able to because it's linked. It's not just the videos, it's also linked. So I was trying to make it larger, but I don't know how to do that. So if you look at, for the state of Idaho, the stalking law is under the malicious harassment area, and it's under Title 18-7906. Okay, let's go over it. Stalking in the second degree is where a person commits the crime of stalking in the second degree if the person knowingly and maliciously engages in a course of conduct that seriously alarms, annoys, or harasses the victim and is such as would cause a reasonable person substantial emotional distress. So, to kind of clean it up a little bit, you're stalking a person, but it's not just the stalking. The stalking has the result of the victim feeling emotionally distressed. They're concerned, they're distraught, they're worried that you're stalking them, okay? Or, so we're going to B now, it's when a person engages in a course of conduct such as would cause a reasonable person to be in fear of death or physical injury or in fear of the death or physical injury of a family or household member. So again, you have the stalking, right? And this person, they have to feel fear. And this is fear of their death or some type of physical harm to them, or that of a family member or someone that lives in their household. So, for example, I have this fear someone is stalking me, but I have a child, and I'm fearing now that you could cause harm to me. You could try to unalive me or my child. Okay, that's a good example. Okay. Part two, course of conduct means repeated acts of non consensual contact involving the victim or a family or household member of the victim, provided, however, that constitutionality protected activity is not included within the meaning of this definition. So it has to be repeated acts and it has to be non consensual. So you have to tell that person, do not contact me. Do not call me. Do not text me. Do not show up at my job. Do not show up at my house. Do not engage any of my family members. I do not want you to contact me. And it has to be repeated acts, okay? It can't just be one time. It has to be ongoing, repeated acts, okay? And they're describing what a family or household member means. We don't have to go over that. Um, a person living in the same residence as the victim, they're going over that. So let's drop down. Let's go to I. Following the victim or maintaining surveillance, including by electronic means on the victim. So are you following the victim? Are you surveilling them? Are you going in places where they are? Are you watching their post online to see where they are? Are you looking at if they post their location? Are you showing up at their location? Are you showing up at their job, their house, their relative's house? Okay, that's stalking. Okay. II, contacting the victim in a public place or on a private property. III, appearing at the workplace or residence of the victim, entering onto or remaining on property owned, leased, or occupied by the victim, contacting the victim by telephone or causing the victim's telephone to ring repeatedly or continuously, regardless of whether a conversation ensues. So, are you texting the victim? Are you texting them over and over again? If they don't answer your calls, you call them over and over again. If they block you, do you create a fake phone number to then now call and harass them, okay? Et cetera, et cetera. Let's go down to 6. Sending mail or electronic communication to the victim. Do you obtain the victim's mailing address and you start writing them letters, sending them gifts, sending them packages? Okay. Are you communicating with them through email, writing them, obtaining their email, etc., or their work email? Okay. Are you placing an object on or delivering an object to the property owned, leased, or occupied by the victim? So, are you showing up at their property with gifts, with items? Um, Unwanted contact, okay? Let's continue. Stalking in the second degree is punishable by imprisonment in the county jail. Let me go down to that. You can see that because that was a lot of options. For not more than 1 year or by a fine of not more than $1,000 or both such fine and imprisonment. So you can be imprisoned in the county jail for up to 1 year and or receive a $1,000 fine. Okay. So that is the state of Idaho stalking law. Now we're going to move on. We're going to go over the federal stalking law. Okay. So let's enlarge this. Okay. The federal interstate stalking law can be found at Title 18 of the United States Code at 2261A, okay? And it's going to cover stalking. So let's continue. Let me scroll this down. So if you are reading this, you can read this and see this as well. Now remember, the federal law is going to cover when someone leaves their state or a state and goes to another state. That's what makes it a federal crime, okay? Whoever, number one, travels in interstate or foreign commerce or is present within the special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the U.S. or enters or leaves Indian country with the intent. So you have to have intent, okay? You have to establish intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, or place under surveillance with intent to kill, injure, harass, or intimidate another person, and in the course of or as a result of such travel or presence engages in conduct that, okay? So now they're going to talk about the conduct. So again, they have to have the intent. They're crossing from one state into another state, and they have the intent to kill, to injure, to harass, to intimidate another person, okay? So this conduct that they're doing, they're engaging in this conduct, right? And it has to cover these things. It places that person in reasonable fear of the death of or serious bodily injury to that person, an immediate family member of that person, or a spouse or intimate partner of that person, or causes, attempts to cause, or would be reasonably expected to cause substantial emotional distress to a person described in these causes, okay? So let's clean this all up. So initially, from the start, they're going from one state to another state. They have intent to cause the death of or some serious bodily injury to the victim or a family member or spouse, intimate partner of the victim, okay? And they have to reasonably have emotional distress. They have to feel distraught. They have to feel upset. A normal person would feel this way if they're being stalked, right? Okay. But they're causing this distress. They're causing this distraught. Okay. Let's continue. Number two, with the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, or place under surveillance with intent to kill, injure, harass, or intimidate another person. They use the mail. Okay. Any interactive computer service, so that means they're online, they're on the computer, or electronic communication, okay? Or electronic communication system. So are they using their phone? That's electronic, right? Are they using their tablet? Are they using their iPad, okay? To get someone in a different state, okay, or any other facility of interstate or foreign commerce to engage in a course of conduct that places that person in reasonable fear of their death of or serious bodily injury to a person described in the clauses. So again, they have to feel fear, they have to be distressed, they have to feel that they're going to be hurt, seriously hurt, and they're using the computer, the mail, a tablet, any type of electronic device to do this, to cause this fear, right? Now we have to drop down again. It places that person in reasonable fear of death of or serious bodily injury. It causes, attempts to cause, or will be reasonably expected to cause substantial emotional distress. And then they're going to be punished, and then there's another title to cover what kind of punishment, okay? So that is the federal stalking law. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and come back on here. So again, both laws cover first fear. They have to be fear of being hurt, seriously hurt, injured, killed, them or someone close to them or intimate partner, a spouse, family member, household member, right? Okay. Then it has to cause them emotional distress. They have to be upset about it. And the only difference is in the state of Idaho, you have to know who the person is. You have to, it has to be non consensual. You have to know that person, know that you're being stalked. And it has to be non consensual. You have to say, no, do not stalk me, do not contact me. For the federal law, you don't have to do that, okay? So I think we covered the two different laws. Now, again, we know that for a long time, it was heavily reported in the media, it was heavily covered in the news that Bryan Kohberger was stalking the victims. But we later find out after some time, a long time, that two things. The prosecutor, Bill Thompson, came out in open court and said Bryan Kohberger was not stalking the victims. And then we also have the Moscow Police Department come out and say that they cannot confirm that Kaylee Goncalves had a stalker or any incidents where she was allegedly being stalked. So let's go over that information now, okay? Because I want to tie it all in together. So this article is coming from eonline.com. It's titled Idaho Murder Case, Truth About Bryan Kohberger's Social Media Stalking Allegations Revealed. Idaho murder case prosecutors agreed that Bryan Kohberger, who's accused of killing 4 university students in November of 2022, didn't stalk one of the victims on social media before their death. This is written by Leah DeGrazia. Is dated April 16th, 2024. And it reads as follows. Bryan Kohberger is off the hook for one allegation. The 29-year-old who has been accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students back in November of 2022 did not stalk one of the victims before their deaths. Both the prosecution and defense agreed during an April 10th court hearing, according to the Idaho Statesman. In fact, Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson said the allegation of him stalking one of the college students, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Madison Mogan, 21, Xana Kernodle, 20, and Ethan Chapin, 20, was simply false. Lawyers on both sides also denied reports that Kohberger followed one of the victims on social media. But while the stalking claims were laid to rest by both sides, prosecutors weren't in agreement with the defense request to move the trial to a new location due to concerns over how media attention surrounding the case could affect potential jurors. The state is coming from a position of being practical and trying to use common sense here, Thompson told the court April 10th per the Idaho Statesman. It seems the position of the defense is it is okay to risk tainting additional jurors in order to ascertain bias of other potential jurors, and I'm not sure that that's the way this court should do business. However, Kohberger attorney Elisa Massa argued the public could already be biased, saying in court, you can't taint what's tainted. Latah County citizens have accepted the information placed before them by state actors, she added. This is all information that's put out into the media, and having the state now claim this moral high ground is an oxymoron. The hearing's developments come less than 2 months after a February appearance in court revealed Bryan plans to call 400 witnesses to take the stand during his legal proceedings. During that meeting, Kohberger's defense also requested a cell tower investigation to help build an alibi, potentially delaying the case for a second time after he previously waived his right to a speedy trial. In response, state prosecutors urged the judge to deny the acts. It frankly causes the state great alarm that the defense is discussing calling upwards of 400 witnesses during the innocence phase, a deputy prosecutor told Judge John Judge during the February 28th hearing, according to Fox News, when we potentially don't have a full alibi disclosure. Kohberger's on trial over accusations that he fatally stabbed Goncalves, Mogan, Coronado, and Chapin at an off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho, in the early hours of November 13, 2022, after being taken into custody and extradited to Idaho a little over a month after the killings. The Pennsylvania criminology PhD student was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary in regards to the student's deaths. In May, the judge entered not guilty pleas on Kohberger's behalf. He could face the death penalty if convicted. Okay, so we're done with the article. And again, my only point is that in open court, Bill Thompson has stated that Bryan Kohberger did not stalk the victims, or if they want to say Kaylee Goncalves. So why is Steve Goncalves still bringing up this information from the FBI, this parallel investigation? It's still to push this idea out, which we've been told that he did not stalk the victim. So I want to share a video now. So let me share my screen. We're trying to bring it all home from all angles. This video is by King 5 Seattle. It's titled, Idaho Police Victim Did Not Have a Stalker. This is less than 1 minute, so we will quickly watch this video.
The investigation into the brutal murder of 4 University of Idaho students is now entering its 4th week with no word of a suspect in the case. But in their latest update, police cleared up a rumor that one of the victims had a stalker. Idaho State Police say a man was seen following Kaylee Goncalves in and out of a business in October. Detectives believe this was an isolated incident and say there's no evidence tying him to the murders. While authorities are convinced the attack was targeted, they have not named a specific victim.
We're putting the pieces together. And I think when that picture is done, I think we'll have a real clear definition of what occurred and where to go.
The parents of Goncalves spoke out over the weekend, saying they are frustrated with the pace of the investigation. Police are also still looking for the weapon, a fixed blade knife used in the murders.
Okay, so I just wanted to just bring that back to your memory, bring it back to the dome. So, you know, when I was watching the interview of Steve Goncalves, I'm just like, oh, okay, he's bringing that up again. There was a lot of things in that interview, and I have my notes, and I'm going to go over it, but that was just one piece that I wanted to just quickly lay this foundation again, that from the law enforcement angle, they're saying that Kaylee did not have a stalker. And then from the prosecution of Bryan Kohberger, they do not have the supporting evidence. I'm not going to say that he did not do this or stalk the victims. I have no idea. But from their investigations, and that means the state of Idaho and the FBI, allegedly, they do not have the evidence, the supporting evidence to charge Bryan Kohberger with stalking at the state of Idaho level or with the federal government, with the feds. If they had the evidence, Bryan Kohberger would be charged with stalking. Okay. Um, this was something that was ongoing and said for over a year. So I'm going to move away from the idea of stalking at this time. Um, I cannot say that none of the victims were stalked. I do believe that that is a possibility, but right now there is no supporting evidence for it. I did share some information that I uncovered, which was the picture um, of Kaylee Gonclave's ID, where the police officer took a picture of her ID. And there was also another incident where another police officer was at the 1122 King Road home there for a noise complaint, and he was saying that he would call Madison Mogan and he had her phone number. Why are these officers keeping the phone numbers of the residents of 1122 King Road? Why did the officer take a picture of Kaylee Gonclave's ID? I still don't know. I don't understand why he would need a picture of her driver's license. And I don't know why a different officer would have Madison Mogan's direct phone number, cell phone number. So all of those things was leading me to feel that possibly Kaylee Gonclaves had a stalker, and because that was something that was already in conversation, not just regarding Bryan Kohberger and the investigation of Bryan Kohberger and if he had stalked the victims, but just in general that Kaylee Gonclaves thought she had a stalker, that she told people that, her family knew that, her friends knew that. So yeah, it's just something you know, when you say that this attack is targeted, we don't know if it was a specific person or people or if it was the house. And because so many things have come out, um, we just don't know. But it is good to review all of the evidence. And if you don't have enough evidence to support that charge, you don't charge it. I believe if the state of Idaho or the FBI had enough evidence, not only against Bryan Kohberger, but any person, there would be charges. Okay. I just don't think the evidence is there at this time. And I don't know how much of an investigation that law enforcement did to try to uncover it, to try to confirm it. I don't know if they got surveillance, if they interview people. I don't have the answers to that. I know that it was said and written that they could not really find a connection from Bryan Kohberger to any of the victims. But we will see. We will see if this goes to trial in August of 2025. And that's just 3 months away now. We will see if there is a connection. Have they been able to make a connection to any of the victims or to 1122 King Road? As of right now, they haven't really been able to. Um, so we will see. But for now, um, we just have to accept that the evidence is not there for charges at the state or federal level for charges against anyone, but in particular Bryan Kohberger for the stalking allegations. We just don't have enough evidence, or there's no evidence against Bryan Kohberger. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that information to you. I am going to be rolling out additional videos. I'll probably do 2 at a time because my voice will get weak because I am still sick and I'm fighting this cold. But I just want to thank you for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm excited about some of the upcoming videos. And I just want to keep getting into this case, and I wanna look at some things that I haven't looked at before. So I'm gonna roll out a video about the 1 count of burglary. I've been thinking about it a little bit, and I do see a major flaw in that count. If the prosecution cannot prove that there was a burglary. I don't think you can prove that there was a murder, that Bryan Kohberger is the murderer. So I'm going to bring that video, and then I have another video that I'm going to roll out, and just other topics. Okay, so please stay with your girl, keep up with me, and keep having this discussion about the Idaho Four and just trying to find the killer or killers. Okay, so have a beautiful evening, and see you soon, everybody. Bye.